Okay, that looks better. Okay. Oh wait. I'm not even sure if you heard me before, or if I only just made myself audible. Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure I was silent up until like 10 seconds ago. Now that's a shame. He already left the place, even though I was actually saying hello to him, but I didn't have my mic enabled yet. Now, it would be cool if my cat would leave my desk, because cats really don't belong on the desk when there is a keyboard. Yeah, Cleo, it's also you. You also don't belong on the desk. If you wanna hang out with me, you should chill on my chair. Meow meow. Meow meow meow. Come on here. And don't be confused of me talking English. It is just because of my YouTube channel. Because I'm streaming. Okay, now come on my lap. Yeah, cool. And now come on my lap. Schwupps. Oh yeah, chill with Carlos. I don't know. I want to start my stream. Okay. Alright, so not sure if anyone is about to come around tonight. But I have a very special thing that I want to accomplish, which is sidechaining. First of all, I will prepare a little patch here. And this patch will just be the envelope follower of this plugin. And the Perl noise modulator is not needed. Let's just put the macro modulator there. Now the envelope follower has these parameters, and it just uses the input signal to add vibrato to the signal. But it would be much cooler if it used a sidechain input, or if that was an option. So I wanna implement that now. Yeah, meow meow, meow meow. Totally meow meow. Okay. So what should be the first thing? I think the first thing is that I need a parameter with which I can end and disable sidechaining. That would make sense to be the first thing that needs to be done. Ja, Maur. Leg dich doch hin. Okay. So let's go to the PIDs and to the ones of the envelope follower. And add a and follower 0 sidechain. So this will also be on this side. Yeah, nice. Now I must add a toString for that. Envelope follower 0 sidechain. Yeah, still no people around. Okay. Okay, great. So now I have a sidechain parameter for both envelope followers, and I have to add the parameter here as well. So there are the envelope follower parameters. And now I need to add the sidechain 1. Let's just copy some line, rename it to sidechain. And now I will not use the range bias XL, but just toggle, which toggles between 0 and 1. and the default value will be 0 because I think it will be an exception that people use sidechain inputs with a plugin. It is just a nice new feature that I'm working on. Okay, val to string power, because this is going to be about things being either enabled or not. So this is going to be a unit of power. Yeah. Okay, that should make sense. And now I will have to place this button somewhere in order for this to be a thing officially. So in my modulator component of the envelope, I will now have to add a sidechain parameter. So this is going to be sidechain. If enabled, the input signal is the sidechain input. Or the envelope follower is synthesized from the sidechain input. Okay, that sounds cool. Yeah, the rest of the thing is nice. I'm adding all of the parameters. However, I need this to be a very specific type of parameter. I think this one has a different end argument, but parameter type is not the right format thingy. Oh, someone is there. Hello. I'm currently implementing a sidechain feature for NEL because I want the envelope follower to be, well, optionally sidechained by a different audio input. And currently I'm just adding the parameter to the GUI so that I can experiment with that better. So now I have to find out what was the way to make this a button real quickly before I can go on. Parameter type. Oh yeah, that was what it was called. Okay. Okay. And this was then button? No, switch. It was switch. Okay. Nice. Now I'm adding all of these. I'm activating them for the randomizer. Even though I'm just wondering, should the sidechain switch also be randomized? Yeah, why not? Whatever. Paint resized. I have to add the sidechain button. I'm just adding it at the end apparently. So I need to add something to the layout as well. Okay, let's just try that. Okay, I just want to know what that looks like for now. So there is no functionality yet for the sidechaining. It's just how it looks so far. Okay, there is a button at the end and it says disabled and it can say enabled as well. That doesn't look very nice yet. It should more like say something like sidechain or so. I also feel like it just doesn't, it's just not placed very nicely yet. I don't know why, but I would like this to be at the beginning. That would look cooler, I think. So let's instead put this here. So this will be 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4. This will probably look a little bit nicer, I guess. I don't want to spend too much time now with the looks, but you know, it has to feel good. Okay, nice. I think that's cooler. I like when the optional stuff is more like on the left side a little bit. Okay. Nice, nice. These two knobs, maybe they would look cooler if they were a little bit bigger. Because attack and release is always the most important thing in an envelope follower. And then the width is not so important, so let's make it a little bit smaller. What would that look like? No. The width definitely still needs to be a 5. But I don't know why there's even a 3 at the end. Can I not take that away? I don't need artificial space on my UIs. Alright. Yeah, that looks nice, I guess. Gain could be a little bit bigger. Or could it? Let's make this to 2, 3, 5. I'm only using Fibonacci numbers here, by the way, because Fibonacci numbers are nice and will always create something harmonic. Okay, that looks nice. Yeah. Okay, now I can actually start with the functionality of this parameter. Hello, I'm currently about to implement a sidechain input for the envelope follower of NEL, so that a sidechain audio input can modulate the plugin as a vibrato. I hope that this is going to make a lot of sense. At least in my head, it is pretty cool. Now I have to copy the logic for stuff being able to be sidechainable from another project, because I cannot write it down from the top of my head. But it should be pretty easy, because I already figured that out before. So it really should just be a copy-paste process of random code that enables me to have sidechain. Something in the processor has to be done. So there is this start of the processor where the in and outputs are being defined. And I know that I wrote my own method for that. So I will just copy that now in here and see how I can fit that in. So first of all, I have to give it the same name. Oh wait, this returns a bus's properties. Okay. I think I can actually make this an inline function. Oh no, I'm not in a namespace here, so that would not make sense. Okay, so better make this a member function of that class. Make buses properties. Okay. Let's just put it here. Alright, it's not void, but it's, well, this. Ja, Katze ist gut. Leg dich halt auf meinen Schoß oder so. Jetzt wird nicht so viel gekuschelt. Okay. Now this method exists. And I cannot see the chat because my code is in the way. I cannot see if someone wants to say something cool. No, not yet. Okay. I will just look at the chat every once in a while. And else I will look at my code. So now, what am I even doing here? I'm basically adding the input bus stereo, the output bus stereo at all times. And what was this argument? Is activated by default true. So everything is apparently activated by default. And then there was a macro if the plugin has sidechain or not. And if yes, then I'm adding a bus, but only if it's not the standalone app, because the standalone app doesn't build if OBS lost the connection and now it's there again. Okay, I guess my internet's just crappy as always. So now we have a macro for PPD has sidechain, preprocessor define, and we will work very clean and also undef this thing at the end. No, undef PPD has sidechain. Okay. Okay, good. So if we are in the standalone base, so this one, then we will not add this bus, and else we will. Great. What is the next thing that I have to do in order to make this? Oh yeah, right. I have to actually use this function in the constructor. So the constructor currently just inits the buses properties like this with these juice macros for is MIDI effect or is synth. But I definitely know I will not make this project a MIDI effect or a synth at any moment anymore. So I can just disregard this, replace it with my make buses properties method that returns this buses properties object. Great. So now that we have this out of the way, the constructor even looks quite nice. It doesn't look like this very complicated looking juice constructor anymore. Wait, what is this? A macro for if? Oh, I never use if and def. I don't know what it does. Let's just keep it the way it is. Okay. Now I have to find the next thing that needs to be done for sidechaining to be a thing. Okay, so the next thing that I have in my plugin template, where I can remember that had something to do with sidechaining, was that I implemented the can_add_bus method for the processor. Inherited member is not allowed. Maybe because I didn't write it in the header yet. So let's do that. Oops. Of course I wanted to copy the whole method. Virtual. Can add. Okay. Now does this work? Hello, does it work now or not? Expected a semicolon. Okay, whatever. I will just look up how I wrote it in my other project. What was it? Can add bus. Yeah, I definitely wrote it down just like that. Huh? Const? Oh, it's override. Right. Okay, it's already late. Now, does this work now finally? Hello? Please work. Okay, good. Now I can go back to my other file. So, can add bus. It takes the wrapper type, which is an audio processor wrapper type, an object that knows well, what kind of build I'm actually making here. For example, the standalone build. I don't like this, to be honest, because it's like not a preprocessor define, even though I think it should be known at build time already that I'm using the standalone build or the VST build. But for some reason, this has to be done with an object. But yeah, that's how it's done. If we are in standalone, then no, you cannot add a bus, and else if this plugin is sidechainable, then yeah, with whatever the input argument is, and else no. That is basically what I thought. I don't know if this is actually needed, but this is what I have in my template, and I didn't have an issue with that yet. So now I can go on my journey to make this plugin sidechainable with the next thing that I have in here. Okay, is buses layout supported? Was tweaked by me. I think I will just copy the entire method and then compare it with what I already have there and see in which way I have to tweak that. So this is the stuff that I already have, and now I will just add the stuff that I just copied and compare that. So some of the stuff is already very similar. It starts with me defining what mono and stereo means, so I can already remove that. Then it starts with me defining what main in and main out is. It definitely also starts with this, so I think I already copied this over before and just removed this sidechainable part. Yeah, so basically I can really just trust this code without thinking about it. That's cool. But I can still just go over it for everyone who's watching. So the wrapper type is standalone, or is not standalone, but I actually like to write it like this. Or, well, okay, now I get it. Because usually when there are if statements, I like to handle that directly so that I don't have to have an indent. But in this case, I have to do it like this because the code goes on afterwards. Okay, so wrapper type is not standalone, which means that this happens. Then I'm getting the sidechain. Oh, my connection is now back. If the sidechain input is disabled, then I'm not going on. But else, if it's stereo, if it's not stereo or mono, then I'm returning false. So it has to fit to the rest of my channel layout as well. Okay, good. So far so good. Now what is the next thing that I have to do in order to make this sidechainable? There always is a lot of stuff to do when you want to make a plugin sidechainable. It's a very non-trivial thing in a Juice project. I wish it was easier. I have to find out where the process block function is. Okay, this is it. Okay, I will just copy some stuff from there. So this is the process block function right now, and hello. Now chill. Okay. Clearing the channels. I think that can still be done with just the buffer that is coming in here, but then something else has to happen before it goes on. I have to gather the main bus and get the main buffer from the bus, and it's a double precision buffer. That's good. That's exactly what I want to have in this method, because I want all my processes to be double, which is why I made this override for the float version of the audio buffer, which basically just converts it into a double buffer and then calls double process block, just in case that the DAW doesn't directly call the double process block. Okay, now I'm getting the main buffer, and I'm doing that because I cannot trust this thing to be only the main buffer. So I'm getting it with this method. And this is, I think it's thread safe to do that. It's not copy, is it? Get direction and index owner. Yeah, something about ownership transition, not a copy, right? Yeah, I'm making an audio buffer, and it uses the constructor where you are giving it the array of of some other buffer, and that means it basically just transfers ownership. I think that is what it means. Okay. Now I have to rewrite this to work with the main buffer instead of buffer. And I have to be very careful now to also make everything else work like that now. And when I've managed to do that, then I can go on implement the sidechain stuff. So now num samples. Num samples will be the same no matter how many inputs I have. If num sample 0, then putting the visualizer values to 0. Okay, that's good. The read samples will now be taken from main buffer. The samples will now be taken from main buffer. Dry wet mix. Okay, this uses these two things, so I can keep it the way it is. Now, if I'm debugging the mods buffer, if I'm not debugging the mods buffer, then mid-side enabled. Yeah, okay. If mid-side is enabled and I am actually in a stereo track, I'm encoding the samples that I got from the main buffer. I think in this case, I have to make a decision later if the sidechain buffer will also be encoded and decoded to mid-side. It would make sense, I think. And then I'm processing the vibrato with the main buffer. Or else I just process with the main buffer. Gain wet on the samples from the main buffer. Okay, this looks good so far. Now, since I'm putting the main buffer into the process block vibrato method, this is basically the main buffer. Maybe I could rename it to make this more clear in the future. Because I will probably have to add an argument for sidechain buffer at some point. And there is some complexity here already, which is that I'm having the oversampling in this class, which also returns a buffer, and that is called buffer. And then it just works with a buffer. So this is getting a little bit complicated. Here is the modulation stuff. Blah, 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 modulators. Then it uses samples read, which is taken from the buffer, which is taken from the main buffer. Okay, good. That works. Process block also uses sample read. Mods buffer. This prepares the modulator, the buffer with the modulation output from the modulators. Like the mods mix parameter and the depth parameter. So this doesn't have anything to do with the audio buffer, I guess. Now, if I'm debugging the mods buffer, then this, I don't know, since it's not activated now, I cannot really debug it. Now the vibrato currently uses the buffer, which is derived from the mods from the main buffer, so it makes sense. This still has to be renamed because that's where the oversampling, if oversampling enabled, puts the stuff back from the buffer into the main buffer, so that when the method is left, it can go on with the main buffer. Okay, that all looks very reasonable so far. It should work. We will still test it very soon. But quickly looking at process block bypassed, in which I will just completely ignore the existence of sidechaining entirely, because what would sidechain input do when there is just bypass? I think nothing needs to be changed here. Now I hope everyone is excited because it's time to test this. Let's go. And now I will look at the chat actually. No one in the chat yet. Oh, I would have enjoyed a little bit of talking, especially if it's off topic, because I do wanna see this as a chill place. So someone just came around. I'm currently building the plugin because I want to test if everything still works the same as it always work before I start implementing the actual sidechain functionality, which will be very adventurous. And this project is too big for this. Let's choose something smaller. My NEL test project. This is going to be good. Remove this instance of NEL, make a new one. Now preparing it for the test cases. Envelope follower. Okay, good. But when I want to test this with sidechaining, I have to have another audio track in here before I can go on, or else it just doesn't make sense. Hello. So I will just explain it again, just in case that some of the viewers are other viewers than at the start. The envelope follower will have sidechaining, so that a different signal can add vibrato to this signal with an envelope follower on the internal delay. So now I need a different track. I think I will just use some drum loop or something, so that I don't have to spend time now to come up with a beat. It happens way too often that I accidentally start making a beat when I'm just trying to make a plugin. Okay, this has a very clear rhythm, so I will be able to see what's going on. I don't like the Rhodes piano at the end though, so it does have to be tweaked a little bit. Maybe just like this. Okay, I said I didn't want to make a beat or anything, but I do want the transients to be very clear when I start using this as a sidechain input, so I have to actually multiband expand this thing before I can go on, or else it will be a little bit too noisy in my opinion, and then it will not be clear if the results are good or not. It will not take long. Okay, that's a nice drum loop. Let's take that one. Bounce. Oh, it doesn't look much better than before. Maybe even worse. Why? It sounds better. That makes no sense. Well, whatever. It sounds better, so it is better. Maybe there are some, I don't know, super low end stuff. Yeah, that looks like a wave that is so slow that I cannot hear it. I think the recording is just a little bit dirty, and that might have been pushed by my bass boost. That could get in the way indeed, so I still have to tweak something. Some plugin crashed. Was it mine? Why did it crash? Okay, I will find out some other time. Still the same issue. Okay, whatever. I need to find out why my plugin crashes. Why would it crash? Wait, it happened while I was bouncing this thing, right? Yeah. Why? Okay, I need to put that on my to-do list. But I will not solve that now. I will go on with a sidechain feature implementation. So now we have a drum loop that can be our sidechain input, and we have like a beat and a track that we not use. And I will now deactivate NEL again and go back to the code and go back to my other code base so I can copy stuff. So let's find out what is the next thing that has to be done for sidechaining to be a thing. Main buffer. Where's the sidechain buffer? There is some sidechain buffer logic. Okay, so I will just copy that for now, and then I will later ask questions. Or I don't know. I think it's kind of a lot for just being copied, and it might not fit to the logic of this plugin. So, okay, where do I actually need the sidechain buffer? Let's think about that first. Do I need it here? No. Do I need it in dry wet? No. I think I would need it from this moment on, because it would have to be encoded and decoded to mid-side if needed. So it has to happen here. If PVDS sidechain and else something else, and if what is the thing that happens if sidechain is there? Allegedly it is this. If this is a standalone application, then we're getting the sidechain bus, and if the sidechain bus exists, then if it's enabled, I don't know why these are even different things, then the sidechain sidechain buffer is sidechain bus get bus buffer of what was resampled buffer in my other project. It was the buffer coming out of the oversampler. What? But the oversampler oversamples the normal buffer. Why did that work? This is the code I'm looking at right now in my plugin template, where I certainly have functioning side chaining, so it does have to make sense here. What if the plugin has oversampling? Then I'm oversampling the buffer. What's buffer in here? Buffer is just the input. Hey, where am I even using that after I've done this? Oh yeah, I remember, because buffer has all of the channels. It has the main buffer and it has the sidechain buffer. Okay, so that makes sense, because it means that I can oversample all of them together, not just the sidechain. Oh shit, I have to rewrite my oversampler to actually work with such inputs. It doesn't do that yet, but in my NEL code base the oversampling comes later anyway, so I can ignore that. So let's go back. So instead of using resample buffer here, I just use the same as I did before, not the normal buffer. Okay, and now instead of calling process block upsampled, I am not calling anything, and instead think what I need to do here, because I need to end up somewhere here and here, which is currently not possible since this is in the middle of three if statements. So how am I accomplishing that now? Sidechain buffer. Oh, I have an idea. So this is an audio buffer D. So I could make this a pointer, and only if the pointer is not null pointer, it will do something in here, or something like that. So plug in processor. Where will I put this logic? At the start, maybe. Sidechain buffer pointer. Yeah, this has to be a pointer then. This has the default value null pointer. Yeah, and now every time in process block it will either be filled with null pointer or with an actual buffer. And that way, whatever happens next, we can always figure out if sidechaining is possible or not. But wait, this will not exist anymore when it leaves the scope, so that makes no sense. It makes no sense using a pointer here. Shit. Okay, wait, different. Sidechain buffer. Just like this. Sidechain buffer always exists. Ah, fuck. Does anyone have a better idea? I'm getting confused. Wait, this would not create a copy, right? This would just do the ownership thing again. But I still need to have like a possibility to make this look empty if any of this fails. Well, anyway, let's just go on for now. I will find out later what the problem is. Mid-side encode sidechain buffer, get array of right pointers. Yeah. Oh, I just realized I need to check if the sidechain input is also stereo, or else this will not make sense. Very complicated. Okay. Buffer non-channels is 2. In which case this, and then decode? No. Okay. Sidechain samples. This will look a little bit nicer. And else it will do the thing that it always did before. Okay. And if sidechaining is not if mid side is not enabled and the main input is not 2 channels, then I should assume that the sidechain buffer also just has 1 channel, I guess. It wouldn't make sense to modulate a single channel with 2 channels. At least that's what I feel like. Do I have to give this the argument of the sidechain buffer? Or can I just retrieve it here because it's a member variable anyway? I think I can do that. Yeah. I would just have to take this line and also put it here. Okay. Oh. Wait. The oversampling is currently just applied to the main buffer. But I know that I have to change this to be so that the oversampler can oversample everything at once. Oh, that's going to be complicated. Okay, I think this is going to be too annoying for a single stream because I already get a headache here, and I don't know. I think it's still it was still very informative up to this point because all of the basic setup for sidechaining was kind of in the stream, like this method and this other method and the channel properties thing, and also it showcased some general problems that can come up with trying to add sidechaining to a project, which is pretty cool. And it's going to be a little bit more complicated, but this was already a pretty good summary of why there are not a lot of sidechaining plugins out there, because it involves a lot of these edge case thoughts. Yeah, I think I will just leave the stream then and figure this out on my own some other time when I have a little bit more brain power. Goodbye.